HD presents Gentle Giant with Pam Minnick and Katie Kaufman.
Yep. For centuries, those who came before us relied on heavy horses for transportation and agriculture. Draft horses help build communities, towns, and even states. And we're fortunate that many areas embrace and celebrate this heritage.
That's right. Here at Washington on the Brazos, the birthplace of Texas, they have preserved a famous 200-year-old farm and regularly celebrate the role that draft horses played in establishing the Lone Star State.
Stay with us. Gentle Giants begins in just a moment. Welcome back to Gentle Giants. Washington on the Brazos State Park strives to keep history alive, allowing visitors to experience and understand what life was like on the farm more than 150 years ago. Washington on the Brazos State Historical Park is a 293-acre site located on the Brazos River at the original town site of Washington, Texas, a major political and commercial center in early Texas. Revered as one of Texas' most significant historic places, it was here in 1836 that representatives of the Texas settlements met to make a formal declaration of independence from Mexico. Barrington Living History Farm is a representation of the farm founded by Dr. Anson Jones, the last president of the Republic of Texas. With Jones' daybook and accounts as their guide, the interpreters at Barrington Living History Farm conduct themselves much as the earliest residents of the original farmstead, raising cotton, corn, cattle, and hogs. Visitors can travel back in time to the days when legends such as Sam Houston and Davy Crockett walked this land. They can see how Barrington's earliest residents lived and participate in daily activities to better understand what life was like over 150 years ago. John Failer is the lead agriculture interpreter at Barrington. Working in the field of living history, preserving and sharing the role of farmers is his passion. John studied at Ohio State University and has a background rich in traditional horse-drawn farming.
We're at Barrington Living History Farm. Barrington Farm is the restored home and rebuilt, reproduced farm of Dr. Anson Jones. Dr. Anson Jones was the fourth and last president of the Republic of Texas, and what we've done here is recreated the antebellum cotton farm that he had operating here in the middle of the 19th century, the 1840s and 50s. So what we do daily is try to, depending on the time of year, recreate the different activities that were happening here. So you could come out here in the spring and help us planting corn or planting cotton. You could come out here in the fall and help us harvest. What we do here is just try to show the daily life, living by the seasons, and following Dr. Anson Jones's journals as close as we can to what he recorded in the 19th century. So every day there's something different going on.
John enjoys preserving the past and passing on the heritage to another generation. He lives by the profound thoughts of American statesman Daniel Webster. When tillage begins, other arts follow. The farmers, therefore, are the founders of human civilization. John says we are all sons and daughters of farmers.
Most of us are not farmers anymore, but most of us descend from a farmer. And this is the closest that we can come to connecting people to their agricultural roots. It is a place to step back. We get so many people who are nostalgic visitors. They remember seeing Grandma and Grandpa do things like this when they were little boys and little girls. They can remember the smells of the barn, or sitting in the dog run, or cooking over an open fire. So this is really an opportunity for people to connect back to their roots. We may not be related to Anson Jones, but Anson Jones was not living that differently from so many other early Americans and early Texans. So this is a really great opportunity for people to connect back to our past. It is our collective past. Some people say that it's the mark of a successful civilization. I'm not so sure, because so many people have no idea where their food comes from anymore. You know, we get lots of school kids out here that think chicken comes wrapped in plastic, and so for us this is a way to connect them back to it. I think in the year 1800, more than 90% of Americans worked in the field of agriculture. I think today that number is certainly less than 10%, probably somewhere around 5% of people working in the field of agriculture were working less land, feeding more people, and this is just a great way for people to step back and see the way their ancestors farmed and took care of themselves.
Today, the Texas Draft Horse and Mule Association is gathered here at Barrington Farms to present Beasts of Burden, draft animals at work. This is a unique educational experience.
The goal for this program is to show people and show visitors the different types of jobs that draft animals do. Not just draft horses, but mules. We have oxen here as well at the farm that we'll have out pulling logs, working in the fields. So it's just a great way for people to see and the opportunity to ground drive. We have some ground driving opportunities to really hold those lines and connect to the animal and get back to those agricultural roots.
Coming out here, you know, meeting people from all different walks of life and everything, and sharing our interest and love for the draft breeds, you know, with people that doesn't necessarily get a chance to see them every day. And be able to come out here and actually hook up the plows, you know, and break up some land and everything. We don't get a chance to do that on a daily basis.
We have scheduled times, the opportunity to ground drive teams of horses. We have Dan and Kate, team of Belgians, out here now that people have already taken some turns. We've even had some youngsters out there ground driving behind them. Depending on how well our teams are behaving and they're pulling the plow, if people want to take the handles of the plow and try walking a furrow, it's a great way to connect to the animals.
We're telling the different commands for the horses, the different lines, the left and the right one, the G and the ha. So, and tell them when to whoa so they can stop them if they have to. And then we just let them drive them around the peach orchard here, and we just walk beside them in case something would happen. But the horses are trained well, they're doing real well, and they're real gentle, real slow, so everything's been going fine so far.
The simple commands, G, ha, how to hold the lines properly, where's the safest place to stand. Very basic things, and that's why we thought ground driving was a great place to start, because if you get scared, all you have to do is let go. There's nothing you have to jump off of. You're not going to fall off of anything. If things go bad, which they're not going to, all you have to do is let go. So I think the basic commands, step up, walk up, whichever the teamster prefers to use, whoa, G, haw, those are the first things that we're teaching people. I think a lot of visitors, because they don't grow up around them, might be a little intimidated by their size. But spending any amount of time, even just a matter of minutes, like the opportunity to walk and ground drive behind them, they quickly learn that these are gentle, truly gentle giants. They are animals that are easily controlled. They listen very well. They respond to commands. They respond to just the slightest touch of a line. And I think that it's just a great way for them to overcome maybe that fear. You know, it's a point of fascination for so many people, but that this lives in all of us. This is something our ancestors did. So draft animals, draft horses, draft mules, oxen, they are a living connection to our past. I think that this is the bridge to the past, these animals.
More of what life was like centuries ago here at Barrington Farm when we return. You're watching Gentle Giants.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. An important part of farming more than a century ago may not have involved heavy horses. Sometimes they relied on oxen, but these guys are gentle giants too. Oxen are any breed of cattle that are 4 years old or older. They've been trained to work while wearing a yoke and provide the power and strength to move heavy loads and cultivate farmland. According to Dr. Jones' journals, on January 11, 1845, he purchased 1 yoke of oxen from G.H. Harrison at $40 and of Dr. Robertson at $30 and paid them in full. He eventually purchased several other teams of oxen. The oxen of Barrington Farm are used in the same way Dr. Jones used his oxen, seasonally. Therefore, the teams may not always be in the fields.
Oxen are preferred for a couple of reasons. They're much cheaper in terms of cost. In the 1840s and 50s, horses were costing between $70 and $100 a piece. A team of oxen you could purchase for approximately $20 for the yoke or the team of oxen. Also, oxen were generally, after 8 or 10 years worth of work, were consumed. This represents food for the family. So they can serve the family long after their working days are over. These are like giant tractors on the farm. They are another type of draft animal. We have horses, mules, and oxen. These happen to be Piney Woods oxen, that's the breed. So being an ox doesn't denote a special breed. Any breed can produce an ox. It just has to be trained how to work at least 4 years old. We use oxen here because Dr. Jones, along with having horses and mules, had 4 teams of oxen to work in his fields. They're slow, they're powerful, they're easy keepers. They can live on nothing but grass and pasture alone. We don't have to give them special feeds. They're just really a neat animal, or something that we just don't come in contact with that much. The yoke has 3 parts. The main piece that's resting on top of their shoulders is called the beam. These pieces are called the bows, and then we have the iron ring. And unlike horses, when you see the horses out here, you'll notice they're wearing padded collars. Horses pull with their chest. Oxen do not. They pull with the top of their shoulders. So when they pull, we hook them up to a log. You'll notice they put their heads down and push their shoulders into this big beam. And that's where their point of draft is. It's different on a horse. Haw a little, haw a little. Good boys. Walk up. See how their heads are down? They're pushing into that beam. I'm gonna come right this way. So you guys will probably have to back up this way. G a little, G a little. G, good boy. Walk up. Walk up. Walk up. We use the same commands, the same terminology. G, haw, walk up, step up, or whoa. Stand, back up, walk up. The great thing about an ox is that they're far stronger than I am, but I'm far smarter than he is. You know, I'm his dominant animal, which is why they're standing here, doing what I'm telling them to do. They learn that from a very young age.
At Barrington Farm, Dr. Jones farmed 50 acres of cotton and 20 to 80 acres of corn. He also constructed several log buildings or cribs used to store these crops. Corn cribs were used to house the grain needed to feed people and animals on the farm, while cotton cribs were used to store the Barrington cotton crops until Dr. Jones would bring his cotton to Washington for ginning and baling.
Because the Draft Horse and Mule Association is preparing our cotton ground, we're actually going to be planting cotton in this ground. Up on the front porch of the house, we have hand ginning cotton seed. So our cotton crop from last year, visitors are going to be pulling seeds out of it and prepping us for planting it here this week, hopefully after the ground's prepared.
Well, this young lady is actually helping us to de-seed our cotton that we grew last year. These seeds will go into the field that these gentlemen are plowing up with the horses, with the teams. And to do this would have been one of the chores the children had to do prior to the invention of the cotton gin. Back in the early 1800s, a child would be told to sit with a basket of cotton and pick seeds out of it. And by the end of the day, they might have a pound of cotton, and Mom then could spin the cotton into cloth. Of course, the cotton gin changed everything. I'm sure children gave a collective sigh of relief, but then of course the kids had to get out in the fields and help to plant the cotton and then help to pick the cotton. So cotton was such an important part of life back in those days. If it was not just the picking or the planting or the spinning, it was just so much of what made life important back in those days. And even the young children could learn to drive the horses. Sam and Charles Jones, who lived in this house, at 9 and 11 were picking 100 pounds of cotton a day and driving a team of oxen. So everyone had to work together to make that cotton crop, that cash crop, what it came out to be. So this young lady is doing a service for us because those seeds will go into the ground sometimes this week after these horses and oxen get our fields ready.
When we return, we'll learn about some special gentle giants. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. This week our spotlight is on Chase and Chaz, the gray percherons of Doug and Debbie Halford. Gentle Giants Spotlight features the gray percherons Chase and Chaz, who have a history on our show.
They called Debbie and said, well, we hate to bother you, but we just saw episode 8 of Gentle Giants, and that horse on the right, which is Chase on the right, he has a pretty distinguishing profile for his head. He's got a little bit smaller head than his brother does, and she actually recognized him from the TV show and called my wife Debbie and started asking Debbie questions about the horse and everything. And sure enough, this was the team that they originally broke back in Missouri.
It was Tuesday morning after the Gentle Giants program aired on Monday night, and I got a call that I didn't recognize on my cell phone, and the lady kept calling me by name like she knew me and talking about Chase and Chaz, and she called off their registered names, and I'm like, yes ma'am. You know, I wasn't sure what she was getting at, and she kept saying, that was Chase, Wildwin LDJ Chase, correct? And he's about 12 or 13 years old, and I'm like, yes ma'am. And she said, well, we recognize his head. He has the little small ears, looks just like his daddy. And she said, we raise those horses. And I said, where are you calling from? And she said, Nebraska. And I said, well, ma'am, I think these horses were raised in Missouri. And she said, well, our farm was originally in Missouri and we had moved a few years ago. So she was excited. Her husband was in the background talking about the Waverly sale where they were sold when they were younger, and that a guy in Texas got the horses. And so I explained how we got them, and she sent me baby pictures of them so that I could see what they looked like when they were young and when they were dark in color. But it was fun. She was carrying on that these were like seeing her grandchildren on TV, and I couldn't wait to tell Doug about it because he teases that this team is his rock star team, that they're kind of known all the way around Texas where we take them because they're so big and because they're so personable. And so she and I connected. She friended me on Facebook, and she sent me pictures, and she emails back and forth. So it's just an instant bond. It's almost like it is family.
That was a pretty unique set of circumstances for us, and we really enjoyed talking to her and listening for the passion that she has, you know, about the draft horses.
is a walking plow, and it's back in, I'm sure it's 18 or 1700s. It's not one of the newer types. And when you get in the ground, if you want it to go to your right a little bit, you actually push it left, and when you want it to go to your left, you push it to the right, which is just the opposite of the way you would normally think. And we were plowing a little deeper earlier, so we shortened up the tugs on the evener up there so we could raise it up so we don't go quite as deep. We was getting pretty deep, and we try and keep the right-hand horse in the furrow, and she's doing pretty good today. And we've had a couple of people try it out and never worked anything before.
It just gives me a perspective how far we have come and how they used to do it and how we are doing it today, and that is tremendous, how much we have improved technologically, and that's fantastic.
A lot of people aren't interested in history because it's read about in books. They're dead people. It's old, it's boring. This is a way to really bring it to life. I think it's the best way to connect anybody to the past.
Step over.
We'd like to thank the Texas Parks and Wildlife and the folks here at Washington on the Brazos for showing us a step back in time.
That's right, Pam. Also the folks at the Texas Draft Horse and Mule Association. They've been our go-to people since the inception of Gentle Giants, and we have to thank them for inviting us today.
And we'll see you right back here next week on Gentle Giants.
Bye-bye.
Oh, there you go. I'm nervous. I know. Then your arms